and welcome to Culture on I-24 News. I'm Oleg Grober. Thank you for joining me. Today we dedicate our show to the International Holocaust Remembrance Day. We'll hear the sounds of a special concert that took place at Unesco headquarters in Paris. We'll talk to the director of a film about the little-known story of the Algiers Jewish resistance, and a look at a popular memorial for victims of the Holocaust in Germany. The Night of Fools is a docudrama film about the Jewish underground movement in Algiers at the time of the Second World War and the incredible story of how 400 men took control of the city. The film will air tonight on Israel's Channel 1, and with me in the studio is the film's director, Dr. Rami Kimchi, assistant professor at Ariel University School of Communications. Dr. Kimchi, thank you for coming in today.
Thank you for inviting me.
So tell me a little bit about the film and about the story that is told through it.
It's a story of 400 Jewish volunteers who, in November 8, 1942, succeeded to take over the city of Algiers, the capital of Algeria, in which there were about 20,000 Vichy soldiers, and to take control of it for 24 or even 36 hours, and to hand it over to the Americans who landed at the shores of Algiers the day after.
Right, and how'd you come across this story? Do you have a personal connection to it? How'd you find it?
Yeah, as you said, I'm also a man of the academia. I'm a professor, so I attend conferences. In one of the conferences, a fellow, an historian, came to me and told me, "Listen, I've written an article with one of my friends about a story that can be of interest to you as a filmmaker. I would like you to read the article." So I read the article, and I found out
immediately it was obvious to you that there is a story.
There is a story here.
Yeah,
yes.
It's an incredible story, and even, I don't know, more incredible, but just as incredible is the fact that we haven't really heard this story up till now.
Yeah, you know how it is in history. The winners take it all. And in this case, the winners were the Americans. So they didn't have any interest to reveal that the Jews helped them to seize Algiers. The French even
didn't want it told.
Had less interest to tell the story because they were humiliated by Jews.
Yeah.
I mean, if they would have been humiliated by Americans, it's okay, but by Jews, never.
Yeah.
Not a chance.
And it is important that these lesser-known aspects of the Holocaust are told.
Yes, I think that in Israel, the film brings two elements that within the Israeli discourse are disconnected. On one hand, the history of the Holocaust, which is being considered within the Israeli discourse a European history.
Certainly.
And an Ashkenazi history, and the history of the Jews of North Africa.
Yeah.
So it brings them together. So it was a hard sale. It was very hard for me to get the money for the film. It took me 5 years to get hold of the budget.
There is historic importance in telling this story, and I'm curious if while you were making this film, if you felt that responsibility, because you're telling a story that hasn't really been told, and to some extent, the way you tell it is the way it's going to be remembered.
Okay. Yeah, I'm always responsible when I deal with historical. Historical things. But in this case, there were books written. There were articles written about the story. I mean, if you look,
you're not taking it all on yourself.
Yeah, I'm not the only one.
Okay, and choosing to make this sort of film? Because the story could make a wonderful feature, blockbuster film.
It was a budget decision. I mean, to make a feature film out of it would have taken millions of dollars, and we had only $120,000.
And it took 5 years to raise that amount.
Yes,
you didn't want to do it within your life.
This is it. As I say, in American terms, this is a low-budget film.
Yeah, certainly.
In Israeli terms, it is a low-budget film. In American terms, this is a no-budget film. So,
now you interviewed some of the people that were part of this resistance, right? At the very last minute, some of them.
Yes. One of them deceased after we interviewed him, and most of them are still alive. They are over 95 years old, and they made an excellent job giving the testimony. They are brilliant people, they are charming, and they are making the film.
Yeah. Now, did they feel that their story was not told enough, that their story only exists, as you sort of said, in the shadow of the European story of the Holocaust?
Yes, they were very glad to give their testimonies to the film because until now they felt that their story is not known enough.
Yeah, but there was one who didn't want to be interviewed.
Yeah, José Abulker, who was the commander the chief commander of this underground, wouldn't give us an interview. He was not a Zionist, so when he heard that we are from Israel, he didn't want to be interviewed by us.
So he took part of this not necessarily as a Jew who is fighting for the Jewish people, but as a Frenchman.
As a Frenchman, as a Republican, who would like to bring back the Republic, the French Republic.
So it's a complex story.
It is.
Yeah, no doubt.
It is.
It's an incredible story and a lovely film, and I'm glad that it is told. Dr. Kimchi, thanks again for coming in.
Thank you.
Now, around the world, ceremonies are held this week in memory of the victims of the Holocaust. On Monday evening at the Unesco headquarters in Paris, a unique concert took place with the Jerusalem Symphony Orchestra. Sandy Fortis has the story.
International Holocaust Remembrance Day reflects on the millions of Jews, Gypsies, homosexuals, Jehovah's Witnesses, disabled, and dissidents murdered by the Nazi regime. This year, for the opening commemoration ceremony, the Jerusalem Symphony Orchestra was invited to play at the UNESCO headquarters in Paris.
We came here to this distinguished center of UNESCO to bring a message of music which symbolizes the Holocaust and beyond, the hope and life after the Holocaust. Our music director, Maestro Frederick Shazlan, is a son of survivors who are present here with us tonight, and so are many of our musicians.
The evening included the Sweet Yiddish by Norbert Glansberg, and Shostakovich's Babi Yar Symphony No. 13. Pieces that tell the story of European pogroms and the Holocaust, all symbols of the 70th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz.
2015 is a symbolic year. We celebrate 70 years since the liquidation of the extermination camps, 70 years since the end of the Second World War. But we also celebrate the 70th anniversary since the foundation of UNESCO. Although 70 years have passed, sadly, some lessons still need to be taken. We still witness anti-Semitism, lack of tolerance.
Some feel that the Holocaust's memory does not fade because it still echoes in our society today.
The attack against Jews reminds us that although the extermination camps disappeared, anti-Semitism is not dead, and it takes new forms and continues to kill.
Led by its musical director, the Jerusalem Symphony Orchestra also played Ode to Peace. a piece composed by conductor Frédéric Chazlan, who was also conducting in the event.
There are elements that generate a sense of peace. If you listen to Schubert or Mozart, you feel good, you feel it, and everyone feels good. If you listen to Wagner, your heart rate speeds up, your blood pressure rises, etc. So there are natural elements that work with peace. In this hymn, I took these, then I gave them a slightly oriental one, and I used elements that generate feelings of peace.
Ode to Peace will be played next March at the Vatican for the Pope, in the presence of representatives of the three religions. Music has been there to accompany the Jewish people in the most tragic moments, whether in ghettos or even in the concentration camps. Today, the music honors the Jews that lost their lives.
So how does one honor the memory of the millions of victims of the Holocaust? This question still arises today, 70 years after the end of the Second World War. One of the means used in Germany, signs on the ground bearing the names of victims, has been deemed disrespectful in Munich. Let's take a look.
As the world commemorates the 70th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz, the question of remembrance and memorials remains relevant in Germany. Many believe that museums are the best way to pay tribute to the victims of the Nazi regime, in which millions of European Jews were murdered, as well as political dissidents, homosexuals, Roma, and disabled people. Artist Gunther Deming always had a different idea. In 1996, he launched a project that would become the most popular form of tribute to Holocaust deaths in Europe. The Stolperstein, or memory block, metal plates 10 centimeters square in size, bearing the name of a deceased person and set in the ground. From Oslo to Vienna, from the Atlantic coast in Budapest, 50,000 blocks were set in over 1,000 European cities, embedded in the pavement outside the last known address of the victims.
There are few memorials to the individuals, or it is necessary that the victims themselves are part of our memory, if we want them to transmit. Young people today cannot remember, since they have not experienced these events. I can remember, and I want to convey this memory.
But in Munich, city officials and a large influential Jewish group rejected the project. In fact, they banned the bricks after arguing that they desecrated the memory of the victims. The absence of the Stolperstein in Munich is also due to the strong opposition of Charlotte Knobloch, former president of the Central Council of Jews in Germany and leader of the Jewish community in Munich. For her, the fact that these plates are installed on the ground in the dust and that passers-by can walk on it in total indifference is a desecration of their memory. But this opinion is not shared by the majority of the Jewish community in the city.
The Stolperstein shows that the monopoly of the memory is in the process of breaking up. As the director of a Jewish museum, memory forms dating from the 70s were fair. At the time they were admired, but they do not interest the youth of today. Each new generation has the right to try new forms of memory, and those who think this is not good maybe should be a little more tolerant.
According to Terry Schwartzberg, a leader of a campaign for Stolperstein, these memory paving stones can also be used as a reminder to German society, or even a warning. To debate over the Stolperstein revives a painful past and raises once again the question of the duty to remember.
Before we end for today, here's our cultural recommendation.
Britain pays tribute to one of its greatest historical figures. Winston Churchill, the British Prime Minister who led his country and its allies to victory against Adolf Hitler during the Second World War. To mark the 50th anniversary of his death, a new exhibition takes place in his former home. Many artifacts and documents on display have been loaned from Churchill's family. This is an intimate exhibition of the UK leader from his childhood to the day he died on January 24, 1965. At the corner of a hallway, visitors can also meet Jacques VI, a small red-haired cat with white paws. A permanent resident of the family home, the descendants of Churchill have requested that the house will always welcome a cat like Jacques, the beloved cat of Winston Churchill.
That's it from us for today. We'll leave you with the performance of Frédéric Chazlan, Ode to Peace, for the International Holocaust Remembrance Day. I will see you all again tomorrow.